Hi everybody, Dan Bailey here with another super fun Fujifilm video for you. Today we're going to talk about the X-M5, which is the latest X-series camera that Fujifilm has announced. Before we get into that though, I want to tell you about my online course, Mastering the Fujifilm Autofocus System. Now I've read on a place called the internet that some people say the Fujifilm autofocus system sucks, that it can't capture fast images, and it's impossible to use it to capture any kind of moving subjects or sports or action or birds. But I haven't found that to be the case. In fact, I've shot action successfully with every single generation of X-series camera that's come about. And a lot of it is understanding how the camera works, understanding the settings, and understand how to implement each one for a given situation. So in my course, I run through the entire camera settings, the entire autofocus system, and how to make it work for you for the kinds of things that you like to shoot. And I give you a number of tips that are not camera dependent, but that are vitally important towards being able to capture moving subjects, especially in challenging light. Now this is an essential course for any Fujifilm user, so if you'd like to check it out, you can find it right here at this link. Okay, let's get started. Now, once upon a time, in 2013, Fujifilm released a camera called the X-M1. Now this was one of the early X-series cameras. In fact, it came just a few months after the X-E1. At only 280 grams, it was extremely small and compact. And at the same time, it had the full-size APS-C X-Trans sensor. This was the first generation X-Trans sensor, same one that was found in the X-Pro 1 and X-E1, and it created beautiful images with this little tiny body. And it came in three colors. One of them was this stylish leathery brown. I remember seeing it when it came out, and it was really a sharp little camera. It was actually the first X-series camera with Wi-Fi capabilities. So for only 300 bucks, you got this cute, stylish little camera that shot gorgeous photos and even shot 1080p video. And in all those years following, there was never any successor until now. Just a few weeks ago, Fujifilm announced the brand new X-M5. And this is the successor to that little X-M1, and it follows a very similar trend. It's ultra light, ultra compact. It only weighs 300 grams, actually 307 to be precise. And that's, what, 12 ounces or something? And despite its small size, it's packed with a ton of great features and settings that'll give you excellent photo quality and great video specs as well. So let's dive in a little bit and see what the X-M5 offers. And later on, I'm going to talk about how it compares to its kind of sibling cameras, the X-S20 and the X-T50. First of all, the X-M5 is the lightest and smallest camera in the Fujifilm X series line. It also has a new, advanced, more responsive touchscreen. Now inside, they've combined the 4th generation 26 megapixel X-Trans sensor with the 5th generation processor. Now if this sounds familiar, it's because it's the same combination used in the X-S20. The main difference is that the X-M5 has a little bit more of the traditional X-series styling. The X-S20 is a little bit more kind of DSLR-like. It has a more pronounced grip, and it has the electronic viewfinder. The X-M5 does not have a viewfinder. The X-M5 has the brand new film simulation dial, which is the same found on the X-T50. And there are a few other differences, which we'll talk about later. But for now, let's run down the specs of the X-M5. Since it has the new 5th generation processor, it has all those great new 5th gen settings, which include the updated, much higher performing autofocus system. It has the subject detection autofocus feature, which allows the camera to instantly and automatically track things like birds, trains, bicycles, motorcycles, automobiles, animals, however you set it in the menu. It's basically like face detection, but for other subjects, and it works extremely well. Both of the XH2 models and the X-T5 also use this as well. It's an incredibly powerful feature. It also has the new zone custom setting, which was introduced in the X-T50, and this allows you to actually have different size zone patterns. So in most cameras, when you put the camera in autofocus zone, the box is either 3x3, 5x5, 7x7. With this new zone custom setting, you can actually create boxes that are 3x9 pixels, tall zone settings like that. So it just allows you more flexibility for shooting more precise subjects that have different shapes or different positioning in the viewfinder. I'm hoping that this setting comes to the other models in a future firmware update. The X-M5 has 20 film simulations, including the newest ones, Nostalgic Neg and the new Reala Ace. And again, those can be accessed with the new film simulation dial, just like the X-T50 has. Now, I recently took the X-T50 on vacation in upstate New York for 3 weeks during like peak foliage season. And that's all I took. And I loved using the X-T50. And I had a great time with the film simulation dial. I'm such a film sim junkie. I mean, that's mostly I shoot JPEGs with the film sims. And so having that little dial right there on the top of the camera was a real boon, and I enjoyed using it. So it's great to see the X-M5 has that as well. I know that people who shoot only RAW with their Fujis don't really need or like that feature, but you're never going to please everyone, right? The X-M5 has a fast electronic shutter that will fire up to 1/32,000th of a second. Electronic shutters have been improving with faster read rates over the years, and so with the new 5th gen processor, you have those extremely fast read rates, which allow you better performance when you're shooting very fast moving subjects with the electronic shutter. With previous models that had slower read rates across the frame, you could have distortion if the subject was moving quickly. But with the faster read rates in the modern sensors, that's pretty much gone now. And it'll shoot up to 8 frames a second with the mechanical shutter, up to 30 frames a second with the electronic shutter. So yeah, this little camera is a real creative powerhouse, and it will get the job done if you're shooting fast subjects. Now, in addition to being a great camera for still photography, the X-M5 has surprisingly impressive video specs. With its 26 megapixel sensor, the X-M5 will shoot open gate 6.2K video at up to 30p. Now this is kind of a big deal because the only other camera in the X series line that has open gate video functions is the XH2S. So what is open gate? It simply means that you're using the entire sensor to capture video. Now when you shoot video on most cameras, the sensor gets cropped. They don't use the whole sensor for the video. So even if you're shooting at 4K, you're still not using all of the pixels on the sensor. But open gate video allows you to do that. And the advantage is that you get more pixels in your video, you get higher quality frames. So if you're cropping or using your video for different formats, let's say you're going to shoot a video, you might do some stories, vertical stories on something, you might do some square video clips. You have that flexibility because you have all of that information on the sensor. So open gate on this little tiny camera is a huge deal. It also shoots F-Log2, which is basically Fuji's RAW video, has up to 13 stops of dynamic range, and it has a mini HDMI port, so you can shoot and output RAW video straight to an external recorder, like an Atomos Ninja or a Blackmagic system. Also shoot 4K video at 60p, and even 1080p video as well. Because obviously shooting higher res video means much larger video files. So if you don't need all that information and you want smaller files, up to this point, all my stuff on the YouTube channel is 1080p. The X-M5 also shoots high-speed video at up to 240 frames a second for ultra slow motion playback, and it has digital stabilization whenever you're shooting video. The camera itself does not have a stabilized sensor, but if you're shooting video, you can take advantage of digital stabilization. The X-M5 has 3 built-in microphones, and it has an accompanying setting that allows you to control those mics. You can either set them for front priority, so things in front of the camera, rear priority, things in back of the camera, or front and back, as if you had a microphone with a figure-8 polar pattern. So it'll capture front and back, but not the stuff on the sides. And it has a surround mode. In addition, it has a new noise reduction setting, which includes a built-in AI wind filter and a low-cut filter as well. And like the XS20, the X-M5 has the new vlog mode settings, which include background defocus mode, portrait enhancer, and product priority. So if you're shooting specific video types, this can quickly allow you to optimize the look of your video to reflect what you're shooting. And one of the coolest video settings I think the camera has is the new 16:9 short movie mode feature. Basically, this setting puts the camera into vertical video mode and allows you to capture 15-second, 30-second, or 60-second clips. And it also has 2 very low bitrate options, 8 and 25 megabits per second. And so this basically gives you much smaller video files that you can quickly and easily transfer via Wi-Fi to your phone or tablet and upload right from there. So there's no more need to upload your video, go into Final Cut Pro or whatever editor you use, and then crop all your video frames and then format it for vertical. You can do this right inside the camera, and I think that's really awesome. Now, considering that a lot of people shoot Instagram stories, YouTube shorts, and TikTok videos, this is a really well thought out and implemented feature, I think. And finally, to top it off, the X-M5 is compatible with Fuji's accessory cooling fan. If you haven't seen this, it's a device that screws into the back of the camera. It works on the two new XH2 models and also the XS20. And basically it keeps the camera cooler, which allows for longer video shooting times, especially when the weather starts to get warm. Because the one thing that'll shut a camera off quicker than anything is if it overheats. So the cooling fan is a really great accessory for anybody who likes to shoot video, especially longer format clips and stuff. So that's the basics of the X-M5. Great photography specs, very much like the X-T50 and the X-T5. And at the same time, incredible video specs that will appeal to a wide range of video shooters, whether you're a content creator who likes to shoot shorts and TikTok stuff, or if you want to do longer, more involved cinematic productions, this camera will handle that. Okay, now that we've run through all that stuff, let's see how the X-M5 compares to its two closest siblings, the X-S20 and the X-T50. We'll start with the X-S20. I talked a little bit about that before, but we'll dive in more deeply here. Now, one of the main differences is that the X-S20 uses the larger 235 battery, which is the same one found in the X-T5 and the XH2 and XH2S. It offers more power, more shooting time, more frames, but it is heavier and more expensive. The X-M5 uses the original NP126 batteries that all the other previous models have used. They're lighter, they're less expensive, take up less room in your pack. Advantage to that is you might, if you've been an X-series shooter for a while, you probably have a few of these hanging around the house. I know I've got a whole drawer full of them. With camera and card, the X-S20 is about 150 grams heavier than the X-M5. X-S20 also has a stabilized sensor. Again, that's going to add size and weight and cost to the camera. The X-S20 also has slightly higher bit rates for video, and the X-S20 is compatible with the UHS-2 memory cards, which give faster performance, especially when you're shooting video. All of these differences in the X-S20 make for a slightly heavier and a more expensive camera. The X-S20 comes in at $1299 for the body only. The X-M5 is only $799. So that's $500 difference. That's a big chunk of change. In some ways, the X-T50 is closer to the X-M5 with regards to size and some of the specs. It's closer in weight. I think the X-T50 is like 440 grams with battery and card. So it's about 50 grams less than the X-S20, which is surprising because the X-S20 is a tiny little camera. But again, having used the X-T50 extensively in the past few weeks, I've been impressed with how small and light it is. And the X-T50 also uses that older 126 battery. There are some dramatic differences. The X-T50 is stabilized with 7 stops of IBIS, and it also has the 40 megapixel sensor for higher resolution. But in terms of video performance, the X-M5 actually has higher specs, including that open gate 6.2K. The X-T50 does shoot 6.2K video, but it's not open gate. Another huge difference is that the X-T50 just has a much bigger buffer. If you're shooting continuous frame rates, it'll shoot way more pictures until it starts to slow down and has to quit and write to the buffer. But I would question whether this is a really big deal for a lot of people. I mean, 173 photos is a lot of frames. The X-T50 also offers a highest bit rate of video shooting at 360 megabits per second, same as the X-T5. The XH2 and XH2S will top out at 720 megabits per second, but only if you're using those CF Express cards. Now, the X-M5 tops out at 200 megabits per second, which is certainly fine for just about every kind of video you're going to shoot. And it also has those two very low bitrate settings of 8 and 25 megabits per second. So again, if you want to shoot and transfer quickly and get stuff up, that's going to do it. I'm shooting this at 50 megabits per second. Now, if you're shooting ultra fast action, that's when the higher bit rates can help. And of course, when we talk about, well, do I need really high bit rates and very high shooting specs? I mean, the chances are, if you're already shooting very high quality video and you're a dedicated video shooter, you probably already have something like an XH2S, because that's the highest video spec camera in the Fuji line. So yeah, if you're already heavily into video, you probably already have that, or that's the one you want. The X-M5 is, again, the everyday camera for stills and video, and it does great at both. And if you don't need the top-end performance, you can save a lot of money. As I said, X-M5 is only $799, and that's a very impressive set of specs for such a low price. In fact, it's the smallest and most compact Fujifilm X series camera. It's probably the most bang for your buck for an X series camera. As I said, it's $500 less than the X-S20, $600 less than the X-T50. So bottom line, the X-M5 is a wonderful little tiny compact creative powerhouse that will shoot beautiful images and incredible quality video with a lot of different options depending on the formats and the types of subjects that you like to shoot. It's a perfect little tiny camera for anybody who wants an ultralight camera to take anywhere and fit in your jacket pocket. Now the good news is that by the time you watch this, the X-M5 is probably going to be shipping already. So today's the 19th. I think it's slated to ship on the 21st. Yeah, so again, by the time you watch this, it might already be in stock at your local camera store. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for watching this video. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And check out my other videos. I've got a ton of Fuji videos up on the channel. And of course, check out my best-selling ebook, X-Series Unlimited. This is basically the missing manual to the X-Series, and it tells you everything you need to know in order to get the best performance and have the most fun with your Fuji. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and New Blue Sky at Dan Bailey Photo, and you can follow my website and blog as well. So again, thanks for watching, have fun with your Fuji, and I'll see you next time.